You're nothing but a venomous gold-digging snake who only wants his money." The silence that followed was deafening. Alice Thornberry never imagined those words would come out of her mouth, much less in the main hall of Blackwell Mansion, in front of 50 elegantly dressed guests who now stared at her as if she had committed sacrilege. The woman in the red Chanel dress, Charlotte Ashford, the fiancée, went pale, but it was the look from the man beside her that froze Alice in place. Benjamin Blackwell, the billionaire who owned half of Montana, didn't take his dark brown eyes off her for even a second. There was no anger in that penetrating gaze. There was curiosity? Perhaps even a glimmer of amusement? Impossible. "How dare you?" Charlotte began, but Benjamin raised his hand, silencing her without even looking in her direction. "Fascinating," he murmured, still fixed on Alice. "Continue." The murmurs exploded. Benjamin's mother, Cordelia Blackwell, dropped her champagne glass. 2 days earlier. Life at Golden Valley Ranch was simple, and Alice liked it that way. Waking up at 5 in the morning, taking care of the horses, helping her father with the cattle, smelling the hay and wet earth. At 24 years old, she had no pretensions, just the dream of keeping the family property running, despite the debts that had been piling up since her mother passed away. "Alice! Alice!" Her father, Harold Thornberry, entered the stable with a paper trembling in his hands. "It arrived! The letter from the Blackwells." She put down the brush she was using on the mare Estrella. "Dad, we've already talked about this. We're not selling our land." "No, daughter. It's not about selling." His blue eyes sparkled. "It's an invitation. The Blackwells are going to announce Benjamin's engagement, and they want to hire our horses for the party. They say our thoroughbreds are the best in the region." Alice's heart raced. The payment for an event of that magnitude could save them from bankruptcy, but the Blackwells, she had heard stories about them, especially about Benjamin, arrogant, cold, who treated people like business pieces. "How much are they offering?" Harold showed her the number. Alice had to lean against the stable gate. "Accept it," she whispered. "Accept it now." Present, Blackwell Mansion. And there she was, 2 days later, in a dress borrowed from her neighbor, holding the reins of reality as it crumbled. It all started when she brought the horses and overheard Charlotte in the gardens, on the phone. "Of course I don't love him, darling. But $40 million in inheritance is worth any sacrifice. 2 years married, a strategic divorce, and I'll be free and rich." Alice couldn't contain herself. She had burst into the hall during the official toast, and now Benjamin Blackwell was walking toward her, each step echoing on the silent marble, that minimal smile at the corner of his lips, leaving her simultaneously terrified and strangely electrified. "I think," he said, stopping inches from her, so close that Alice could smell the expensive sandalwood cologne, "you and I need to talk." Benjamin's private study was everything Alice expected from a billionaire's sanctuary. Leather-bound books, a mahogany desk that probably cost more than her entire ranch, and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking an impossibly manicured garden. What she didn't expect was to be alone in it, with the man himself. "Sit," Benjamin said, not a request but not quite a command either. "I'd rather stand." Alice crossed her arms, her borrowed heels sinking into the Persian rug. "Look, I'm sorry I ruined your engagement party, but someone had to tell you the truth. The truth." He poured 2 glasses of bourbon, offering her one. She shook her head. He shrugged and took a sip from both. "And what makes you think you know the truth about my relationship?" "I heard her, on the phone in your garden, talking to someone about how she doesn't love you, how she's just waiting for the inheritance. $40 million after 2 years and a strategic divorce. Yes, I know." Alice's mouth fell open. You knew?" Benjamin leaned against his desk, studying her with those unnervingly intense eyes. "Miss Thornberry, it is Miss, correct? I didn't build a billion-dollar empire by being blind to people's motivations." "Then why?" "Because marriage, in my world, isn't about love. It's a merger. Charlotte comes from the right family, has the right connections, understands the rules. Love is a variable that complicates otherwise simple equations. Alice felt heat rising to her cheeks, and it wasn't embarrassment. It was anger. That's the most cynical thing I've ever heard. It's practical. It's sad. Something flickered in his expression, gone so fast she might have imagined it. You're quite bold for someone who just humiliated my fiancé in front of Montana's elite. Ex-fiancé, I hope. That remains to be seen. He set down the glasses. Tell me, Alice Thornberry of Golden Valley Ranch, and yes, I did my research in the 3 minutes it took to get here. What do you know about love? You live alone with your father. No romantic entanglements I could find. Buried in debt, working sunrise to sunset, just to keep your family legacy alive. The words stung because they were true. At least I know what matters. Family, loyalty, real connections, not transactions. Noble sentiments from someone who accepted my offer for one reason only: money. That's different. That's honest work, not what? Not marrying for financial security. He moved closer, and Alice's breath caught. How is it different? Because I'm not pretending to love you. The words hung between them, charged with something Alice couldn't name. Benjamin's lips curved into a genuine smile for the first time that evening, transforming his entire face from intimidating to devastatingly handsome. No, he said softly. You're certainly not. A sharp knock interrupted them. Charlotte swept in without waiting for permission, her red dress now seeming more like a warning flag than a fashion statement. Benjamin, darling, we need to do damage control. I've told everyone that poor girl is mentally unstable, probably overworked, heat exhaustion. Charlotte. His voice cut like ice. Leave us. Excuse me? I said leave. Now. Charlotte's perfectly made-up face contorted. You can't be serious. You're going to listen to some ranch hand over me? I'm going to listen to someone who was honest enough to speak the truth, yes. She has no proof. It's her word against mine. Alice pulled out her phone. Actually, I recorded the whole conversation. I was going to send it to you privately, but you were already making the toast and I couldn't let you walk into a trap. Charlotte lunged for the phone, but Benjamin blocked her path. I think you should leave, Charlotte, and don't bother with damage control. The engagement is off. You'll regret this. My father. Your father will understand that business is business, and this business is concluded. Charlotte's departure was marked by the slam of the study door and the rapid clicking of expensive heels down the marble hallway. Alice exhaled, realizing she'd been holding her breath. Well, that went better than expected. Did it? Benjamin turned back to her, and there was something new in his eyes, something that made her pulse quicken. Because now I have a new problem. What problem? My mother is hosting the annual Blackwell Charity Gala in 3 weeks. 600 guests, including every major investor and business partner I have. I was supposed to appear with my fiancé, announce our engagement officially, show stability and commitment. Alice's stomach sank. And now you don't have a fiancé. Exactly. He paused, and she could practically see the gears turning in his brilliant, calculating mind. Unless... Oh, no. Hear me out. Whatever you're thinking, the answer is no. I'm thinking, Benjamin said, moving closer again, that you need money to save your ranch, and I need a date to the gala. Someone real, someone honest, someone who isn't afraid to call me out on my nonsense. You want me to be your fake girlfriend? I want you to be my real date to a very important event. What happens after? He shrugged. We'll figure it out. Alice laughed, slightly hysterical. This is insane. I don't belong in your world. I don't own a dress that costs more than $50. I don't know which fork to use at fancy dinners. I can be yourself, which is apparently more valuable than I realized. He named a figure that made her knees weak. That's what I'll pay you for one evening, plus covering any expenses, dress, shoes, whatever you need. Why me? Because in a room full of people telling me what I want to hear, you told me what I needed to hear. His hand reached out, almost touching her cheek before he caught himself. "Because you're real, Alice Thornberry. And I've just realized how rare that is." She should say no. This was crazy, impossible. "One date," she heard herself say. "Just the gala." "Just the gala," he agreed, extending his hand. When their hands touched, Alice felt electricity shoot up her arm. And from the way Benjamin's eyes widened slightly, she knew he felt it too. What had she just agreed to? Alice stared at the check in her hand, wondering if this was all some elaborate fever dream. $5,000, just as a deposit. Benjamin had insisted, saying it would cover her ranch's most urgent bills while they prepared for the arrangement. "You look like you've seen a ghost," her father said from the kitchen doorway of their modest farmhouse. "Worse. I think I've made a deal with the devil." Harold Thornberry chuckled, pouring himself coffee. "The devil doesn't usually pay up front, sweetheart. What's really bothering you?" Alice told him everything. The overheard conversation, the confrontation, Charlotte's fury, and Benjamin's outrageous proposition. She left out one detail: the way her heart had hammered when Benjamin almost touched her face. "So let me get this straight," Harold said slowly. "The richest man in Montana wants to take my daughter to a fancy party, pay her handsomely, and treat her like a princess for an evening." "When you put it like that, sounds like you won the lottery." He squeezed her shoulder. "But you're worried about something else. What is it?" Alice slumped into a chair. "Dad, I don't belong in that world. What if I embarrass myself? What if everyone sees right through me?" "Alice Thornberry," her father's voice turned stern. "Your mother, God rest her soul, raised you to be strong, smart, and true to yourself. Those society folks should be worried about impressing you, not the other way around." Before Alice could respond, the rumble of an expensive engine interrupted them. Through the window, she watched a sleek black Mercedes pull up their dirt driveway, completely out of place among the pickup trucks and tractors. Benjamin emerged, dressed more casually than she'd seen him, dark jeans, a white button-down with rolled sleeves. He looked normal, dangerously attractive, but normal. "He's here," Alice whispered. "Then don't keep him waiting." "This is your home?" Benjamin asked, and Alice bristled at what she assumed was judgment. "Not all of us have mansions with gold-plated faucets." "I don't have gold-plated faucets," he said mildly. "And I meant, it's charming, authentic." Alice studied his face for sarcasm and found none. "Why are you here, Benjamin?" "Two reasons. First, to meet your father properly." He extended his hand as Harold stepped onto the porch. "Mr. Thornberry, I'm Benjamin Blackwell. I apologize for the unconventional circumstances." Harold's handshake was firm, assessing. "You the one making my daughter nervous as a cat in a room full of rocking chairs?" "Dad?" Benjamin's laugh was genuine. "Apparently yes, though that wasn't my intention." "What was your intention?" "To offer your daughter an opportunity, and to be completely transparent with you about it." Benjamin explained the arrangement with remarkable honesty, not sugarcoating the business nature of it. Harold listened, then nodded slowly. "Alice is old enough to make her own choices. But you hurt her, Mr. Blackwell, and you'll find out that ranch folk handle problems differently than society folks." "Understood, sir." "Good. Now what's the second reason you're here?" Benjamin turned to Alice. "I brought someone to help with your preparation for the gala." As if on cue, another car appeared. A silver Audi carrying a woman who looked like she'd stepped out of a fashion magazine. "Alice, meet Sophia Reeves. She's a personal stylist and, more importantly, a friend who owes me a favor." Sophia bounded up with infectious energy. "Oh, honey," Benjamin wasn't kidding. "You're absolutely stunning, those cheekbones, that natural hair color. We're going to have so much fun." "I don't need—" "Yes, you do," Sophia interrupted cheerfully. "Not because you're not beautiful, but because you need armor. Trust me, those society vultures will be circling. Let's make sure they know you're untouchable." The next 3 hours were a whirlwind. Sophia took measurements, showed Alice pictures of potential dresses, explained the basics of navigating the Shark Tank, as she called high society. Benjamin, surprisingly, stayed. He sat on the porch with Harold, discussing ranching, horses, and, from what Alice could overhear, her mother's legacy. "Your father's a good man," Sophia said, pinning fabric samples to a board. "Benjamin doesn't give his time easily. The fact that he's out there actually having a conversation instead of checking his phone every 30 seconds, that's significant. It's just business to him." "Is it?" Sophia gave her a knowing look. "Honey, I've known Benjamin for 5 years. I've seen him go through 3 suitable girlfriends, watched him attend 100 events with beautiful women on his arm. You know what I've never seen?" "What?" "Him smile, really smile. But he's done it twice since arriving here." Alice's heart did an unwelcome flip. "You're reading too much into it." "Maybe, or maybe you're reading too little." Sophia packed up her samples. "Either way, the gala is in 3 weeks. We have fittings scheduled, a crash course in formal dining etiquette. Don't worry, it's easier than it sounds, and I'll be with you the whole evening." "You will?" "Of course. You think Benjamin would throw you to the wolves alone?" Sophia hugged her. "He might play the cold businessman, but he has a good heart. He just forgot where he put it for a while." After Sophia left, Benjamin approached Alice at the stable where she was brushing down Estrella, her comfort ritual. "Your mare is beautiful," he said, keeping a respectful distance. "She was my mother's, the last foal she raised before." Alice's throat tightened. "I lost my father 3 years ago. Heart attack. Everyone said I handled it well, stayed strong, kept the business running." He paused. "But I'm not sure I ever actually dealt with it. I just buried it under work and practical decisions." Alice looked at him, really looked, and saw past the designer clothes and commanding presence to someone who understood loss. "Is that why you agreed to marry Charlotte? Practicality?" "Partly. Mostly because I convinced myself that emotions were liabilities." He moved closer, close enough that Estrella snuffled his shoulder curiously. "Then a brave, stubborn ranch girl called my fiancé a venomous snake, and I realized I'd been lying to myself." "Benjamin." 3 weeks, Alice. Give me 3 weeks to show you that mixing our worlds might not be as impossible as you think." His hand covered hers on the brush. "And maybe you can show me that some risks are worth taking." The sun was setting behind them, painting the sky in oranges and purples. In that moment, with his hand warm over hers and his eyes reflecting genuine vulnerability, Alice felt the ground shift beneath her feet. This was supposed to be simple. 1 date, business. So why did it already feel like so much more? The first fitting was a disaster. Alice stood on a platform in the most exclusive boutique in Montana, surrounded by mirrors that reflected her discomfort from every angle. The dress Sophia had chosen was gorgeous, midnight blue silk that flowed like water, but Alice felt like a fraud. "I can't do this," she muttered, tugging at the bodice. "You can and you will," Sophia said firmly. "Stop fidgeting. You look incredible." "I look like I'm playing dress-up in someone else's life." The curtain swept open. Benjamin froze mid-step, his phone call forgotten as he stared at Alice. The expression on his face made her breath catch. "I'll call you back," he said into the phone, never breaking eye contact with her. "Benjamin, you're not supposed to see the dress before—" Sophia started. "Stunning," he interrupted quietly. "Alice, you're absolutely stunning." Heat flooded Alice's cheeks. "It's just a dress." "No." He moved closer, and the boutique staff suddenly found reasons to be elsewhere. "It's you. The dress is just fabric. You bring it to life." For a moment, they existed in a bubble, just the two of them, and the electric charge humming between them. Then Alice's phone rang, shattering the spell. Her father's name flashed on the screen. "Dad, what's wrong?" Harold's voice was strained. "Alice, we have a problem. Jenkins from the bank called. Says there's an issue with the check you deposited." Alice's stomach dropped. "What kind of issue?" He wouldn't say over the phone. Wants us both there tomorrow morning. Sweetheart, he sounded serious. After she hung up, Benjamin was immediately alert. What happened? The bank has questions about your check. Fear crept into her voice. What if they think it's fraud? What if... They won't. I'll call them right now and... No. Alice stepped off the platform, suddenly desperate to escape the expensive dress and everything it represented. No, I'll handle it. This is exactly why this whole arrangement was a bad idea. Your world and mine, they don't mix. Alice, I need to go. But Benjamin showed up at her ranch the next morning anyway, dressed in a three-piece suit that probably cost more than her truck. You didn't have to come, Alice said, though relief flooded through her. Yes, I did. He opened the passenger door of his Mercedes. Let's go sort this out. The bank manager, Robert Jenkins, was a portly man who'd known Alice since childhood. His nervous demeanor as they entered his office set off alarm bells. Alice, Mr. Blackwell, thank you for coming. He cleared his throat. We've had inquiries about the check deposited into the Thornberry account. What kind of inquiries? Benjamin's voice went cold. From Charlotte Ashford's father, actually. He's claiming the check was issued under fraudulent pretenses, that Miss Thornberry has somehow coerced or manipulated. That's absurd, Alice burst out. Benjamin's hand found hers under the table, steadying her. Mr. Jenkins, I personally wrote that check. There's no fraud, no coercion. This is clearly retaliation from a bitter ex-fiancée and her family. I understand, Mr. Blackwell, but the Ashfords are claiming Miss Thornberry recorded a private conversation illegally and is using it for blackmail. Alice felt the room spin. I wasn't blackmailing anyone. I was trying to help. I know, sweetheart. I know. Benjamin's thumb stroked her hand. The endearment slipped out naturally and she was too upset to question it. Mr. Jenkins, I'll have my attorneys contact you within the hour, with documentation proving this is a legitimate business transaction. The Ashfords are grasping at straws. There's more, Jenkins said reluctantly. They've also filed a restraining order request, claiming Miss Thornberry is a threat to Miss Ashford's safety. What? Alice jumped up. I've never threatened her. This is harassment, Benjamin said, steel in his voice. And it ends now. Outside the bank, Alice leaned against Benjamin's car, fighting tears of frustration. I'm sorry, she whispered. I've made everything worse. Maybe you should just pay Charlotte off, smooth things over. Absolutely not. Benjamin tilted her chin up, forcing her to meet his eyes. Listen to me, Alice Thornberry. You did nothing wrong. Charlotte is used to getting what she wants and she's having a tantrum. But I promise you, she will not win this. Your mother must hate me. Your business partners probably think I'm some kind of con artist. My mother, Benjamin interrupted, called me this morning. Want to know what she said? Alice shook her head. She said, that ranch girl has more spine than every society woman combined. Don't you dare let her get away. He smiled softly. She wants to meet you, actually, properly. Not as the girl who ruined the engagement party, but as my date to the gala. You told her about our arrangement? I told her I'd found someone remarkable, someone real, someone who makes me want to be better than the cold bastard I've become. Alice's heart hammered. Benjamin, this was supposed to be business. I know. He stepped closer, his hand cupping her face. But somewhere between you calling Charlotte a venomous snake and defending me to a bank manager, it stopped being business for me. And I hope, it stopped being business for you too. She should deny it. Should step back, maintain professional distance. Instead, she found herself leaning into his touch. This is crazy, she whispered. Completely insane, he agreed. We barely know each other. Then let's fix that. His forehead touched hers. Have dinner with me tonight, not as part of our arrangement. Just us. What about Charlotte and her father? The restraining order. My lawyers will handle it. Right now, I want to take you to dinner. Somewhere quiet where we can actually talk without your father cleaning his shotgun on the porch or my mother calling every 10 minutes. Alice laughed despite everything. Your mother doesn't call every 10 minutes. You haven't met her yet. His smile was devastating. So? Dinner? Fair warning. I'm a terrible cook, but I know a steakhouse where the owner owes me a favor. She knew she should say no. Should keep things professional. Protect her heart. But when Benjamin looked at her like she was the only person in the world that mattered, professional flew out the window. Okay, she said softly. Dinner. His smile could have lit up the entire state. Pick you up at 7? I'll be ready. As he drove away, Alice realized she was smiling too. Then her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Stay away from Benjamin, or you'll regret it. You don't belong in his world, and everyone knows it. See, Alice stared at the message, her smile fading. Charlotte wasn't going to make this easy. But as she thought about Benjamin's hand in hers, his words about her being remarkable, the way he looked at her in that blue dress, maybe some fights were worth fighting, even against venomous snakes. Alice changed outfits 4 times before settling on a simple emerald green dress her mother had worn years ago. It wasn't designer, but it made her feel connected to something real, something grounding. Benjamin arrived exactly at 7, holding wildflowers instead of roses. From the meadow by the east fence of my property, he said, almost shyly. I remembered you mentioning your mother loved wildflowers. Alice's throat tightened. You remembered that? I remember everything you tell me. The steakhouse was an hour away, tucked into the mountains with views that stretched forever. The owner, Marco, greeted Benjamin like family and treated Alice like royalty. So, Alice said, once they were seated by a window overlooking the valley, tell me something real. Not business Benjamin, not billionaire Benjamin, just you. He was quiet for a moment, swirling his wine. I wanted to be a veterinarian when I was 10. Really? Really? I loved animals more than people. A wry smile. Still do most days. But my father had other plans. Blackwell men run the family empire, no exceptions. Do you regret it? I regret losing the choice. He looked at her intently. What about you? What did little Alice dream of? I wanted to travel, see Paris, Rome, all those places in books. She laughed softly. Instead, I've never left Montana. We could change that. Benjamin, I'm serious. After the gala, we could go anywhere. My jet can... Your jet? Alice set down her fork. See, this is the problem. You say things like, my jet, like it's normal. Your world and mine, they're galaxies apart. Only if we let them be. Before Alice could respond, her phone buzzed. Then again, and again. Instagram notifications flooded her screen. Someone had created a fake account in her name, posting crude messages about Benjamin, claiming she was using him for money, calling Charlotte terrible names. Oh God, Alice whispered, scrolling through dozens of hateful comments. Benjamin took her phone, his jaw tightening as he read. Charlotte. How do you know? Because this is exactly what she did to my last business rival's daughter. Fake accounts, manufactured scandals. He signaled Marco. I need to make some calls. While Benjamin stepped away, Alice's phone rang. Harold. Sweetheart, we've got a situation. Someone called animal control, claimed we're neglecting the horses. They're here now, inspecting everything. Alice's blood ran cold. Dad, I was just there this morning. The horses are perfect. I know that, you know that, but they're making a big show of it. And Alice, there's a news van pulling up. The drive back to the ranch was tense. Benjamin made call after call, his voice progressively harder, more dangerous. This was the businessman everyone feared, Alice realized. And he was wielding that power for her. My publicist is handling the Instagram situation, he said. The account will be down within the hour. I've also got my lawyers preparing a harassment lawsuit against Charlotte. Benjamin, maybe we should just... Don't. He pulled over suddenly, turning to face her. Don't you dare say we should stop. That's exactly what she wants. People are calling my father in the middle of the night. There's a news van at my home. This is my life she's destroying. Then let me protect you. I don't need protecting. I need, her voice cracked. I need this to stop. I need my simple life back where the biggest drama was whether the fence needed mending. Benjamin's expression softened. He reached for her hand. Alice, I'm sorry. I never meant for you to become a target. I know. She wiped her eyes angrily. But maybe your mother was wrong. Maybe I don't have enough spine for this. Maybe I should just... Her words were cut off by Benjamin's kiss. It was desperate and gentle all at once, his hand cradling her face like she was precious, irreplaceable. Alice melted into it, all her resistance crumbling under the tenderness of his touch. When they finally pulled apart, both breathless, Benjamin rested his forehead against hers. Please don't give up on us, he whispered. I know I'm asking a lot. I know my world is complicated and messy and sometimes cruel. But Alice, I haven't felt this alive in years. You make me remember who I wanted to be before I became who I had to be. I'm scared, she admitted. So am I. He kissed her forehead. But I'd rather be scared with you than safe and empty with anyone else. At the ranch, controlled chaos reigned. Animal control was finishing their inspection, finding nothing wrong, of course, while a young reporter tried to interview Harold. Mr. Thornberry, is it true your daughter is involved with Benjamin Blackwell for financial gain? Benjamin stepped forward before Alice could. I'll give you a statement. Alice Thornberry is the most honest, hard-working, genuine person I've ever met. Our relationship is nobody's business but ours, and anyone who suggests otherwise will be hearing from my legal team. Are we clear? The reporter paled. Mr. Blackwell, I asked if we were clear. Crystal clear, sir. After everyone left, Harold pulled Alice aside. You sure about this boy? He brings a lot of complications. Alice watched Benjamin talking to the animal control officer, ensuring they had everything they needed, making sure the ranch's record stayed spotless. Then he crouched down to examine Estrella's hooves, gentle and knowledgeable, more at ease with the mare than he'd been in any boardroom. Yeah, Dad, she said softly. I'm sure. Later, as Benjamin prepared to leave, he pulled a small box from his jacket. This was my grandmother's, he said, opening it to reveal a delicate silver bracelet. She gave it to my mother with instructions to pass it to someone worthy, someone real. Benjamin, it's not an engagement ring, Alice. It's a promise that I'm in this, really in this. And when Charlotte throws her next tantrum, or society vultures circle, or anything else tries to tear us apart, you'll have a reminder that you're not alone. With trembling fingers, Alice let him clasp it around her wrist. 2 weeks until the gala, he said, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. Think you can put up with me until then? I think I can manage. His goodbye kiss was sweeter than the first, full of promise and possibility. But as his tail lights disappeared down the driveway, Alice's phone buzzed one final time. A message from Charlotte. Enjoy the bracelet. His grandmother hated me too. But in the end, Benjamin always does what's best for business. You're just a novelty. He'll get bored. Alice touched the silver bracelet, feeling its weight. She wouldn't let Charlotte win. Not without a fight. The week before the gala became a battlefield. Charlotte's father, Richard Ashford, launched a hostile takeover attempt on one of Benjamin's smaller companies. The business press had a field day speculating about the ranch girl who sparked a corporate war. Alice tried to maintain normalcy, but reporters camped outside Golden Valley Ranch. Her neighbors started asking uncomfortable questions. Even her oldest friend, Emma, gently suggested maybe she was in over her head. Through it all, Benjamin was a constant presence. Morning coffee deliveries with handwritten notes, late-night phone calls that stretched until dawn, stolen moments in his car where the rest of the world disappeared. But the pressure was mounting. You need to meet my mother, Benjamin said one afternoon, finding Alice mucking out stalls, her therapy, when stress became overwhelming. Now, I'm covered in hay and probably smell like a barn. She'll love you more for it. He grabbed a pitchfork. Besides, I'm helping. She can meet us both smelling like authentic ranch life. Alice laughed, despite her nerves. You're really going to shovel manure in a $1,000 suit? It's $1,500, and yes. He actually did it, too, with surprising competence. I told you I wanted to be a veterinarian. I know my way around a stable. Cordelia Blackwell was nothing like Alice expected. Instead of the cold society matriarch she'd imagined, a warm woman in her 60s opened the door wearing an apron covered in flour. You must be Alice, she said, pulling her into a hug before Alice could protest. I'm making apple pie, Benjamin's favorite. Come help me while he cleans up. In the massive kitchen, Cordelia worked the dough with practiced hands. My son thinks I don't know what's really happening. Alice's stomach dropped. Mrs. Blackwell. Cordelia, please. And relax, dear. I know about your arrangement. She smiled at Alice's shocked expression. I also know it stopped being an arrangement the moment he looked at you in that blue dress. Sophia told me. We talk. I'm not trying to trap him or trap him. Cordelia laughed. Sweetheart, Benjamin hasn't been trapped since he was 6 and convinced me he could negotiate his own bedtime. No. What worries me is that you'll let Charlotte and her venomous father scare you away. I'm not scared of them. Aren't you? Cordelia's eyes were kind but penetrating. You're terrified. Not of them specifically, but of what they represent. Of permanently entering a world where people use money as weapons and love as currency. Alice's hand stilled on the rolling pin. Is it that obvious? Only to someone who felt the same way 40 years ago. Cordelia covered Alice's hand with her own. I was a school teacher when I met Benjamin's father. Everyone said I didn't belong, that I was too simple, too ordinary. His first fiancée, yes, there was one, made Charlotte look like an amateur. What happened? I realized something important. Their world doesn't define my worth. My worth defines my place in any world I choose to inhabit. She squeezed Alice's hand. You belong anywhere you decide to belong, dear. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. The moment was interrupted by Benjamin's return and the arrival of an unexpected guest. Charlotte swept in without knocking, dressed immaculately, her smile sharp as broken glass. Cordelia, darling, I came to apologize for the misunderstanding at the engagement party. There's no misunderstanding to apologize for, Cordelia said coolly. And you weren't invited. I'm here for Benjamin, actually. Charlotte's eyes found Alice. To offer a solution to our little problem. We don't have a problem, Benjamin said, his arm sliding protectively around Alice's waist. Don't you? Your stock prices have dropped 6% since your dalliance became public. Investors are nervous. The Ashford merger would have secured billions. She pulled out her phone, showing headlines. Blackwell Empire unstable? Romance or corporate sabotage? Alice felt Benjamin tense beside her. But I'm willing to forgive and forget, Charlotte continued smoothly. Call off your lawsuits, announce our reconciliation, and I'll convince Daddy to back down. The gala can be our official reunion. Everyone wins. Except Alice, Benjamin said coldly. Alice can go back to her ranch with a generous check for her trouble. Isn't that what she wanted originally? Money to save the family legacy? Charlotte's smile was poison. Be reasonable, Benjamin. You can't possibly choose a nobody ranch girl over the empire your father built. The silence that followed was suffocating. Alice felt every insecurity Charlotte's words triggered crash over her like a wave. Benjamin's voice when he spoke was ice. Get out. Benjamin, I said get out, now. Before I have you removed. After Charlotte left, Alice pulled away from Benjamin's embrace. She's not wrong about the stock prices. I don't care about... Your investors care, your employees care, your mother's legacy cares. Alice's voice cracked. Benjamin, I can't be the reason your empire crumbles. Alice, listen to me. No, you listen. She whirled on him. I love you. The words hung in the air, shocking them both. "I love you," Alice repeated, softer. "And because I love you, I can't let you destroy everything you've built for a ranch girl who doesn't even know which fork to use at fancy dinners." Benjamin crossed to her in 2 strides, cupping her face. "Say it again." "What?" "That you love me." "Say it again." "Benjamin, that's not the point. It's the only point." His thumbs brushed away tears she hadn't realized were falling. "I love you too, Alice Thornberry. I love your strength, your honesty, the way you smell like hay and sunshine. I love that you called Charlotte a venomous snake and meant it. I love that you make me want to be the man I could have been instead of just the man I became. But your company is just a company. Buildings and stocks and numbers on a screen." He pressed his forehead to hers. "You're real. This is real. And I will burn the whole empire to the ground before I give you up." "That's insane." "Completely." He smiled through his own tears. "But I'd rather have one real thing in my life than 1,000 gilded lies." Cordelia cleared her throat from the doorway. "For what it's worth, your father would have approved. He always said the right partner was worth more than all the gold in Fort Knox. Mum, and the stock prices will recover. They always do. But Alice?" Cordelia smiled. "She's irreplaceable." Alice looked between them, these people who barely knew her but were willing to fight for her. "The gala is in 3 days." "We don't have to go," Benjamin said immediately. "Yes, we do." Alice straightened her shoulders, feeling something shift inside her. "We go. We face them all. And we show Charlotte and everyone else that some things are more valuable than mergers and empires." "You're sure?" Alice touched the bracelet on her wrist, his grandmother's promise. "I'm terrified. But I'm sure." Benjamin kissed her then, soft and deep and full of promise, while Cordelia discreetly returned to her pie. Outside, storm clouds gathered, but inside, something stronger than fear was taking root. Love, real, messy, complicated, beautiful love. And in 3 days, they'd show the world exactly what that looked like. The midnight blue dress fit like a dream. Alice barely recognized herself in the mirror, hair swept up in an elegant twist, minimal makeup that somehow made her look luminous, the dress flowing around her like liquid starlight. "You look like a princess," her father said from the doorway, voice thick with emotion. "I feel like I'm going to throw up. That's how I felt marrying your mother. Best decision I ever made." He handed her a small velvet box. "She wanted you to have this, for a night when you needed her strength." Inside was her mother's pearl necklace, simple and perfect. Alice's eyes burned as Harold clasped it around her neck. "Show them what Thornbury women are made of," he whispered. Benjamin arrived in a tuxedo that should have been illegal. But it was the way he looked at Alice, like she'd hung the moon and stars, that stole her breath. "You're going to be the most beautiful woman there," he said softly. "I'm going to be the most terrified. Then we'll be terrified together." He offered his arm. "Ready to storm the castle?" The Blackwell estate was transformed into a fairy tale. Thousands of lights, ice sculptures, champagne towers, and 600 guests dripping in diamonds and designer labels. Alice felt every eye turn to her as she entered on Benjamin's arm. The whispers started immediately. "That's her? The ranch girl? She's actually quite pretty, but still. I heard she blackmailed him." Benjamin's hand tightened on hers. "Ignore them." Easier said than done. But then Cordelia swept over, magnificent in silver, and kissed Alice's cheek. "You look stunning, dear. Now, let's introduce you to people worth knowing and ignore the vultures." The next hour was a blur of names and faces. Some people were genuinely kind. Others were politely vicious, their compliments laced with barbs. "Such a refreshing change from Benjamin's usual type," one woman said. "So natural. I love your dress. Is it vintage?" Translation: cheap. How wonderful that Benjamin is supporting local businesses. Translation, charity case. Alice maintained her smile through sheer willpower, but each comment chipped away at her confidence. Then Charlotte arrived. She looked immaculate in scarlet, her entrance timed for maximum impact. And on her arm was someone who made Alice's blood freeze. Marcus Webb, the banker who'd been pressuring her father to sell the ranch for years. "Benjamin, darling." Charlotte air-kissed his cheeks, while Marcus smirked at Alice. "I brought a guest. Marcus has such interesting things to say about our dear Alice's family finances." "Charlotte." Benjamin's voice was deadly quiet. "Walk away. Now." "But we haven't even gotten to the best part. Marcus, tell them about the foreclosure notice." Alice's world tilted. "What foreclosure notice?" Marcus pulled out papers with theatrical flair. "Filed yesterday. The Thornbury Ranch has 30 days to pay their outstanding debts, $200,000, or the bank seizes the property." "That's impossible," Alice gasped. "We've been making payments that mysteriously stopped clearing 3 weeks ago. Such a shame." Charlotte's smile was triumphant, almost like someone sabotaged the accounts. The crowd pressed closer, sensing blood in the water. "You did this," Benjamin said, his fury barely controlled. "I did business." "The bank wants its money. The Thornberrys can't pay." Charlotte turned to Alice. "Unless, of course, Benjamin writes a check, right here, right now, in front of everyone, proving you're exactly what I said, a gold digger using him for money." Alice felt the trap snap shut. If Benjamin paid, Charlotte won. If he didn't, Alice lost her family's ranch. "Don't," Alice whispered to Benjamin. "Please don't. I can't. I won't." "Alice!" "She's right." The words tore from her throat. "This is exactly what everyone thinks, that I'm using you. If you pay my debts now, we prove them all right. I don't care what they think, but I do." Tears spilled over despite her best efforts. "I care that my father will lose everything he built. I care that I'm standing here in a borrowed dress pretending to be something I'm not. I care that loving you has destroyed my life." The crowd gasped. Charlotte's smile widened. "Alice, you don't mean that," Benjamin said, reaching for her. She stepped back. "Maybe I do. Maybe this was all a mistake. Your world, my world. Charlotte was right. They don't mix. Don't let her win. She already has." Alice's voice broke. "I need to go. I can't breathe." She ran, through the glittering crowd, past the shocked faces, out into the garden where the cold air hit her like a slap. Behind her, she heard Charlotte's laugh, Benjamin's shout, the explosion of gossip. She'd just given them the scandal of the decade. Alice made it to the garden maze before collapsing on a bench, her carefully constructed composure shattering. She'd ruined everything. Her father would lose the ranch. Benjamin's reputation was destroyed. And she... That was quite a performance. Alice's head snapped up. An elderly man in an immaculate tuxedo stood there, leaning on a silver cane. "I'm sorry, I should go... sit." It was a command, but gentle. "I'm William Hartford. I knew Benjamin's father." Through her tears, Alice recognized the name. William Hartford, legendary investor, Benjamin's father's mentor and best friend. "I'm sorry you had to witness that disaster," she managed. "Disaster?" William chuckled. "My dear, that was the most honest moment I've seen at one of these pretentious affairs in 40 years. I just humiliated Benjamin in front of 600 people. No, you showed 600 people what real love looks like." He sat beside her. "You know what Benjamin's father told me before he died?" Alice shook her head. "He said, 'My biggest regret is teaching my son that business matters more than heart. Don't let him make my mistake.'" William's eyes were kind. "You just gave Benjamin a choice, money or love, empire or truth. And now we'll see what kind of man he really is." "Mr. Hartford, the papers Marcus showed? Forged. I should know. I sit on that bank's board. Charlotte's father tried to bribe us into creating them. We refused, but they found a corrupt branch manager. He pulled out his phone. I've already called the authorities. The real question is, what are you going to do? I don't understand. Are you going to run, or are you going to fight for the man you love? Before Alice could answer, Benjamin burst into the garden, still scanning for her. When their eyes met, he stopped. I'll leave you two alone, William said, standing. But Alice? That young man just told Charlotte, her father, and everyone in that ballroom that they could take his entire fortune, that you were worth more than all of it combined. Ball's in your court now. As William left, Benjamin approached slowly, like she might bolt. I meant it, he said quietly. Every word, the money, the company, all of it, worthless without you. Benjamin, let me finish. You're right. My world is toxic. It's shallow and cruel, and it nearly destroyed the best thing that ever happened to me. He dropped to his knees in front of her. So I'm choosing your world. I'll sell everything, buy a ranch next to yours, learn to shovel manure full-time if that's what it takes. You can't do that. Watch me. Alice cupped his face, seeing the truth in his eyes. You beautiful, ridiculous man. I don't want you to give up your empire. Then what do you want? I want us to build something new. Together. Something that's ours. She pulled him up, into her arms. I panicked. I let Charlotte get in my head. But I'm done running. Yeah? Yeah. She kissed him, deep and sure. Let's go back in there and show them what love looks like. Hand in hand, they walked back into the ballroom. The final battle was about to begin. The ballroom fell silent as Alice and Benjamin re-entered, hand in hand. Charlotte stood at the center, Marcus beside her, both wearing expressions of victory. Until William Hartford stepped forward. Ladies and gentlemen, William's voice carried authority that made everyone freeze. I have an announcement regarding the Thornbury foreclosure. Charlotte's smile faltered. The documents presented tonight are forgeries. Marcus Webb has been arrested for fraud, bribery, and conspiracy. William nodded to security guards entering through the side doors. Charlotte Ashford and her father are also under investigation for attempted extortion. The crowd erupted. Charlotte's face went white, then red. You can't prove... We have recordings, Miss Ashford. Your phone calls to Marcus. Your father's bribe attempts. Everything. William turned to Alice. The Thornbury ranch is secure. In fact, the bank is prepared to restructure your loan with favorable terms as apology for this mess. Alice's knees nearly buckled. Benjamin steadied her, his arm around her waist. This is ridiculous, Charlotte shrieked. Benjamin, tell them. Tell them you were only using her for... For what? Benjamin's voice cut through her hysteria like ice. For showing me what real integrity looks like? For teaching me that some things matter more than stock prices? You're right, Charlotte. I was using her. I was using her honesty as a mirror to see how hollow I'd become. He turned to face the crowd, Alice beside him. Most of you know me as Benjamin Blackwell, the businessman, the heir to an empire. The guy who treats relationships like mergers. He looked down at Alice, his expression softening. But this woman, this incredible, brave, honest woman, she saw past all of that. She called me out on my nonsense. She made me want to be better. Benjamin, Alice whispered, but he squeezed her hand. I love her. I love her strength, her loyalty, her refusal to compromise who she is for anyone. And if that costs me investors or business partners or anyone who can't see her worth. He looked back at the crowd. Then I don't want your business anyway. The silence was deafening. Then Cordelia started clapping. Slowly others joined. William Hartford, Sophia, several board members Alice had met earlier. Not everyone, but enough. Charlotte screamed something incoherent and fled, her father's lawyers already trying to mitigate the damage. Well, Benjamin murmured to Alice, we certainly gave them a show. We're never living this down. Good. I want everyone to remember the night Benjamin Blackwell chose love over logic. He pulled her close. Dance with me. As they moved to the floor, the orchestra playing a slow waltz, Alice felt the tension finally drain away. "I'm still terrified," she admitted. "Of what?" "Your world. Messing this up. Not being enough." Benjamin stopped dancing, tilting her chin up. "Alice Thornberry, you are more than enough. You're everything. And my world, it's better with you in it. It's real with you in it." "I love you," she said, meaning it with every fiber of her being. "I love you too. More than empires, more than legacies." He grinned. "Though, fair warning, my mother is already planning our wedding. We've known each other 5 weeks. 42 days, he corrected. And I knew on day 1, when you called Charlotte a venomous snake and looked at me like I was worth saving." Alice laughed, tears streaming down her face, happy tears this time. "You're ridiculous." "I'm yours." And as they kissed in the center of the ballroom, surrounded by witnesses and whispers and the wreckage of Charlotte's schemes, Alice finally understood. Love wasn't about perfect circumstances or matching worlds. It was about choosing each other, every day, despite the chaos. It was about letting your heart choose, even when logic screamed otherwise. 1 year later, the wedding was held at Golden Valley Ranch, under open skies and string lights, with horses grazing in the background and wildflowers everywhere. Alice wore her mother's pearls with her wedding dress. Benjamin cried during his vows. Harold gave them his blessing, and Cordelia's entire speech. Sophia caught the bouquet and immediately started planning her own wedding. They honeymooned in Paris, then Rome, then everywhere Alice had ever dreamed of seeing. Benjamin restructured his company, bringing in ethical practices and community investment programs. The stock prices recovered, stronger than ever. Turned out investors appreciated integrity. Alice started a foundation teaching underprivileged kids about ranching and animal care. Benjamin was her most frequent volunteer, often covered in mud and grinning like a kid himself. Golden Valley Ranch expanded, becoming a premier horse breeding facility. The Blackwell name on the sign brought prestige, but Alice's expertise brought success. Charlotte married a hedge fund manager in Europe. They divorced within a year. Nobody was surprised. On their first anniversary, Benjamin led Alice to the East Meadow, where he'd picked wildflowers that first dinner date. "I have something for you," he said, pulling out a folder. Inside were property deeds for the land surrounding their ranch, miles of it. "Benjamin, so you can expand. So you never have to worry about losing your family legacy again. So our kids can ride horses through valleys that belong to them." He kissed her forehead. "So you always know you're home." Alice tackled him into the wildflowers, laughing and crying and kissing him senseless. "Our kids?" she managed eventually. "Well, I was thinking." He grinned sheepishly. "Maybe we start with a dog, work our way up." They got 3 dogs. And 2 years later, a daughter with Benjamin's eyes and Alice's stubborn streak. They named her Lily, after Alice's mother. And on quiet evenings, when Lily was asleep and the ranch was peaceful, Benjamin would pull Alice close and whisper, "Thank you for calling her a venomous snake." Alice would laugh every time. "Thank you for listening." Because that's what love was. Listening, choosing, fighting for each other even when the world said it was impossible. And living happily ever after. One beautiful, messy, perfect day at a time. The end.